lay down the ground rules. So the rules are pretty simple. Just you can text us a question at any time, and then there'll be some sort of there'll be a couple of times when Yaya sort of takes the breaks after he sort of describes a geographical area, a birding site, and we'll invite questions in at that time. So just feel free to ask questions anytime. And I gotta say I understand the meeting's being recorded here. And then off to the races. So I'm just gonna introduce Yaya now. Yaya has been a bird guide in the Gambia and Senegal for 26 years. He sort of learned at an early age about the absolute necessity of work. And he started his work life as a guide at a bird watching camp and just doing odd jobs and finishing up schools. And then about 30 years ago, he and his brother moved to Banjul, starting to provide bird guiding services, mostly to European tourists who visit the Gambia from, say, November to April. He's provided bird guiding to 150 different client birding groups. And he's worked for a lot of the largest bird tour companies in the world. Somebody out there needs to mute up. In 2010, he married and opened up the Gambia Bird Lodge to help protect the small patch of forest near his home. I've birded there. It's a very little birding spot. His reputation as a bird guide has grown and grown, and he's now recognized as one of the top bird guides in the Gambia and Senegal, probably the top, though he's modest about that. Yaya's relationship with other guides throughout Gambia and Senegal is essential to providing comfort, safety, and excellence in guiding services, mostly because they share information about where to find tough birds. Yaya is the executive officer in the Gambia Bird Guides Associations. He has also served on the board of the Kaluro Bird Club, for which you'll see there's a couple species of birds named. Any guide providing birding, wildlife, and nature guiding services is one of both of these organizations, and Yaya knows everybody really well. Yaya's also stays involved in a number of conservation projects in the area, both conserving land and creating some little birding patches here and there. You will find Yaya's got an endearing personality, provides a great birding experience. His birding expertise and bird finding skills show throughout the tour. And if you join him on a tour, you will have a pleasant and productive birding vacation. With no further ado, I introduce Yaya Berry.
Thank you, Charles, for inviting me, and thanks everyone participating in this talks. My English might not be the best English, but I'm sure you will get to understand me. I welcome you all to the Gambia and Senegal, which is the smiling coast of Africa. 6 hours flight from Europe to Gambia, or 7 hours flight, from America, or to 7 to 8 hours flight from America to Banjul. Gambia is, as you could see, is one of the smallest, country on the mainland of Africa. And I've been born and brought up in the Gambia. I was interested in bird watching in nature at the age of 14. And at the age of 18, I started to run tours throughout the Gambia and Senegal in search of subject and rare finds. And since then, I've been involved in conservation, as Charles was saying, among the founding members of Plover Bird Club, and also founding members of Farasutu Forest, which is today one of the well-visited forests in the whole Gambia for bird watchers. Today, to see certain rarities like African wood owl and gray eagle owl, African scup owl, about 3 to 4 owls in one area is Forest to Forest, which is, belongs to the community which I grew up from, and we managed to protect this from the community, and the community benefited as well. And also, the Gambia Birdwatchers Association president, incumbent president to be, from October. Gambia is the smallest country on mainland Africa, of which 20% is wetland. And we have, 670, including migrants of bird species, and 540 residents of bird species in Gambia, in a tiny place like Gambia of 11,300 square kilometer, which is quite amazing. And you can see how Gambia is located, on the map of Africa. Gambia is surrounded by Senegal. It's like cheese in a bread, apart from the west coast, which is the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not familiar with this. As you can see, Gambia is surrounded. This is the little tiny Gambia here, surrounded by Senegal, like cheese in a bread. Like cheese in a bread, apart from the only side, which is the West Coast region on the Atlantic Ocean. Gambia is strangled on the length of the river, and the name Gambia based on the river. The river Gambia comes from the Futa Jalon, as you can see here, from the Futa Jalon Highline, running through to the Gambia towards the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. And the length of the country is strangled on the length of the river. That's why it's called the Gambia. It's the river Gambia, the Gambia River. So this is why you have the Gambia, you have the D in front of the Gambia. It's because of this river. And the river divided the country into two, which is the south bank of the Gambia, which is at the bottom, which is the south bank. And then you have the north bank of the Gambia, which is the top part. But and this is the exact map of the Gambia as it is. And you can see this is the west coast on the Atlantic Ocean, and the river runs through right to the end of the country into East Senegal, going to the Futa Jalon Highlands. And you can see Senegal on the north, Senegal on the south, and Senegal on the east, apart from the west, the Atlantic Ocean. And the basin in the Gambia is divided into sections, which is the coastal area. This is the coastal area of the Gambia. And then you have the middle of the river Gambia, and then you have further inland of the Gambia. So, just so. Yeah. Welcome to the smiling coast of the Gambia and Senegal. Birding with Partnership for International Birding, which I've been doing for nearly 10 years now, leading talks for birdwatchers for Partnership with International Birding throughout the Gambia and Senegal in such subject and rare finds. And so far, so good. All the tours we have been running have been very successful. This is a brief summary of the habitats in which birds are found. The major habitats are forests divided into lowlands and montane. The fauna of the Gambia is described, in terms of 5 major habitats: the coastal, offshore, and inshore waters, lower river wetlands, and upper river wetlands, savanna, and upper variable and lowland, riverine, and savanna woodlands. Gallery forests, it's few gallery forests, in the Gambia. But it's a very small country, as I said, 11,300 kilometers with a small, country, but it's amazing with these birds, because of the river and of course plenty of food, as we have a lot of farmland around the strangling around the river Gambia, from peanut farms to rice fields to millet fields to corn fields, and these have contributed, a lot in the bird life of the Gambia. This is just to show you some of the actions with birding with partnership, international birding, in one of the wooded areas, looking for some rarities like Marshall eagle. In the Gambia, as I was saying, it's one of the smallest countries on mainland Africa, but we don't have the big five of the birds of game of the big game, but we do have the big five of the bird species. And these are the Goliath heron. This is the biggest heron in the world. And you have the giant kingfisher, which is the biggest kingfisher, and you have the northern carmine bee-eater, which is the biggest bee-eater, and we have the Verus eagle owl, which is the biggest owl, and we have the ground hornbill, African ground hornbill, which is the biggest, hornbill in the Gambia. So we do have the big five of bird species in the Gambia, and I will take you through to see some of these species you may see on a tour with PIB, Partnership for International Birding, in this part of the world, Gambia and Senegal. This is one of the smallest heron. Just from seeing the biggest heron, this is one of the smallest heron you could see birding with us. We have almost about 8 to 9 different herons in the Gambia. And this is the smallest heron called striped heron, or some who will call it greenback heron. That's one of the big five, the African ground hornbill. African ground hornbill are native of the Gambia. You could see them on the coastal areas and throughout the Gambia, the middle of the river and further inland. You could find them throughout the Gambia. That's the female, and earlier on we saw the male. That's the male, sorry, and earlier on we saw the female. Yeah, that's the female, and this is the male of African ground hornbill, resident species of birds of the Gambia. And this is the giant kingfisher. The giant kingfisher is among the big five you may have in the Gambia while birding with Partnership for International Birding. And then giant kingfisher can be seen around the coastal areas and further inland as well, but more common around the coast of the Gambia. And that's a male, giant kingfisher. Female have chestnut belly, and then male have chestnut breast. And that's another giant kingfisher in action there. When it comes to bee-eaters, I was telling you about the big five. We have bee-eaters. We have the northern carmine bee-eater, which is one of the biggest bee-eater. And this is the little bee-eater, which is one of the smallest bee-eater. We are home to 9 different, bee-eaters, which is quite amazing. The amount of number of, bird species in just a small area. And in Gambia, they would say just standing at one spot, you could pick up to nearly 100 species without moving. What I mean is, and that's the northern carmine bee-eater. Northern carmine bee-eater is one of the biggest bee-eaters and among the big five of bird species in the Gambia. And northern carmine bee-eater just around from November to the rain. We do have our rainy season, which is from June, July to October. That's the wet season. And from October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, that's our dry season, that's our winter. Our winter is totally dry season. So during our dry season, you could find carmine bee-eaters on their, breeding, colonies in various areas. And recently, they've been starting to occur on the coastal areas of the Gambia. They have been discovered around the coast here on an area where they are breeding, which is quite amazing, for the first time. in some of the gallery forests or jungles of the Gambia, we do have some, nice, forest species like flycatchers. And we are home to quite a few flycatchers, including some migrants from Europe, like the field flycatcher, the common flycatcher. And this is the red-bellied paradise flycatcher. Red-bellied paradise flycatcher is seen on a birding trip with PIV in some of the gallery forests around the coast and even further inland. And this is another breeding colony of red-throated beaters. As I said to you earlier, we are home to 9 different beaters, including, the biggest beater and the smallest beater in the region. These are red-throated beaters in their breeding colony further east of Senegal, around the famous national park called Nyokolokoba National Park.
Hey, I'm gonna take a little stop before we go to some of the stars of the show.
Yeah.
Any questions out there on? We've covered birding. I mean, the bee eaters cover the northern carmine bee eater and the red-throated bee eater are more up river near Janjanburra. And the rest of the bee eaters you can kind of see throughout the rest of the country. Any questions about hornbills, bee eaters, any other of the big bird stars for the show? And is you'll see that. I mean, the Gambia part of the tour is just covered in wetlands, and other nearby habitat, forested areas, and Banjul itself is just surrounded by birding sites, to kind of start the tour. Any questions so far? And I'm going to check the text box. You can either text them in or you can just unmute and ask away. We kind of take these little question breaks here and there. So you can, text questions anytime. Or you can just take advantage of these little breaks and unmute. Any questions so far? I'm going to ask a question because I thought I heard this right. You said there's 540 recorded resident species. Is that what you said?
Yes, and including migrants, we have been making some new numbers on top of the migrants. It used to be 670, but now it have increased to 675.
Gotcha. So 540 residents and then migrants add about another 140 species. So
exactly.
A potential of 680 species. Not that you're going to see them all, but just it is a very small country covering a lot of habitats. And about the drive time from Banjul to Janjanburra is about, like, if you didn't bird, it would be about 2.5 hours, right?
Yes, if it's a straight drive, it's 2.5 hours. But obviously, in a birding trip, you can't drive straight drive to Georgetown.
Right. We never.
Yeah. The amount of species you can spot on the way, and also this is why we cut it. We have accommodation between places like Apkas Lodge or Tendaba before Georgetown, and this will give us chance not to be rushing around too much.
Right. And so he touched on lodging a little bit. So the lodging in Banjul is pretty luxurious. It's all sort of Northern Europeans vacation there, just enjoying the beaches. The Smiling Coast is I believe it's referred to as. And like the lodging quality is really high. And then as you go up river, there's some new lodges that we want to try, but the lodging quality is not as nice as the coast. The coast is like really relaxed, really nice stuff. It's kind of like got a Scandinavian feel. And then as you go up river, it becomes more rural. But the birding, but you got to kind of do it all. But again, the drive time from Banjul to Janjanburra is just 2.5 hours if you didn't bird. But of course, we bird the whole way along the way. So I would say the standard drive for a day is about an hour straight through to get to birding sites. But then, you're birding the rest of the day. So it's a very productive birding trip in the Gambia. I just had oh, look at this. Man, Yaya's reading the text here. So somebody asked, how tall is the giant heron?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
shoot,
black
man.
heron is about 120 to 152 centimeter tall,
So I got to do that in, so
11
about,
inches to 5 feet,
yeah, about 4 to 5 feet tall. Is that right? It is a
185 to
massive thing.
230 the wingspan.
Right. It is a massive bird. And there's the one little part around Tinda Aba. There's a really nice mangrove boat tour, and often you can stand up in the boat and see the giant heron sort of towering above the mangrove swamp, towering above the swampy area. And swamp, of course, is not a nice word, but it is really a cool wetlands tour. It's actually one of my favorite boat birding tours in the world, because the boatman is really skilled at stopping the boat to see. It's African wood owl that's in the Tinda Aba boat
No,
area.
that's African wood owls around the coast of Farasuku Forest. This is the forest we
In
protected.
in the mangrove swamp, what's the little owl that we see?
But that's called fishing owl. We'll come to the
Gotcha,
fishing
gotcha,
owl.
gotcha. Cool. So any other bird questions that at the start here? If not, I'll give the microphone back over to Yaya. And now for one of the superstars of the show, I'm going to mute Egyptian plover. Yaya, you can start again.
Okay. Right, Egyptian plover here. And Egyptian plover, many people will pay flights just to see the Egyptian plover. It's one of our famous bird in the Gambia, which is, is well visited, to see. Egyptian plovers are visited in the wet season, and in the late dry season, which is around February, March, they are very rare in Gambia, but further inland, east of Senegal, where they breed, you could see them there all year round. And Egyptian plovers are known as the crocodile bird. And the reason why they are called the crocodile bird is because it's never been filmed before or photographed, but people claim it cleans the tips of the crocodile when they are cooling down without getting any harm. But other thing I have learned from the Egyptian plover, which I have seen with my eye and I have studied them, seen them breeding, is they have the same breeding behavior with the crocodile. They bury their eggs in the soil and they would go into the water, soak themselves, and come on top of where the eggs are buried to soak the water on the soil to cool it down. And when the eggs are hatched, they also bury the chicks for some time before they are out in the open, thrown around. So which is very similar to the crocodile's behavior, because crocodiles do similar thing on breeding. And they are breeding around February, March. And last time I was there with English couples where we watched them breeding in the sandbanks of the River Gambia, further is Senegal. And our famous bird to be visited in the Gambia, the Egyptian plover or the crocodile bird. Yeah, that's the little bee eater. Sorry, not little bit. Pale spotted owlet, which is the little smallest owl in the Gambia. As I said to you, part of the owl, we have the biggest big owl, which is the Veros eagle owl. Some would call it the giant eagle owl. Some would call it the milky eagle owl. But recently it's called Veros eagle owl in Gambia, which is the bigger one. But this is the smallest owlet in the Gambia, and some would claim the smallest bird of prey in Africa, which is the pale spotted owlet, and it turns the head at 90 degrees. It can, turn the head right around at 90 degrees Pale-spotted owlet is found throughout the Gambia around the coastal area and further inland. And if you are with PIB Badin, with Yaya, most of this owl could be seen during the day. I know most of the owls is known to be nocturnal, but we know where these owls are, and then we can find them during the day. And things like pale-spotted owlet, I could call it to respond wherever it is during the day, and it will respond fly out for people to see. This is the northern white-faced scops owl. As you may know, nowadays the white-faced scops owl have been split into two. You have the southern white-faced scops owl and the northern white-faced scop owl. And in the Gambia here, we have the white-faced scop owl. And Gambia is a home to 8 to 9 different owls, including the biggest owl and the smallest owl. And this is the white-faced scop owl, which you could see during the birding visiting period in the Gambia with PIP. That's another white-faced scop owl on an eucalyptus tree in the Gambia. That's another African scop owl. African scop owl is also slightly smaller than the white-faced scop owl, which you could see in some of the forest thickets. Or sometimes in some of the birding or during the birding tour, we do have evenings whereby we go do certain owling for looking for things like the African scop owl, because they're quite rare to see as they are always on the inside the forest thickets. Wood owl is one of the most rarest owl in the Gambia at the moment. And the only place to see the wood owl is the community forest, where we found at our village together with the plover bird. Plover is the village I came from. And majority of the bird guides in the Gambia come from my village. And then we formed a big number of bird guides in the Gambia. We formed a club called the Plover Bird Club. And we have a piece of forest around our community. We convinced the two communities which share this piece of forest for us to protect it. And we gazetted it at the forest department. So we remain as a forest park for the community for the rest of our life. And since then, we've been working on this forest. And since we started, things have been coming, because now most of the areas have been getting chopped by the logging. And this little forest have been a very good roost for the wood owl and the gray eagle owl together with the white-back night heron. And this was taken digitally open by myself this summer, just about a few weeks ago at the Farasutu Forest. Yeah, barn owl. These are some of your migrants coming over back to Africa. But some of them are now resident species, because they are facing big threat in Europe or any other part of European countries, because most of the barn houses in Europe have been converted to houses. And due to this, we a lot of the owls are staying over all year round nowadays. This is one of those, if you keep smiling while biting with us, we will show you one of these. Pale-faced owl, you could see on the boat trip, some of the boat trips we do onto the mangrove swamps or into the creeks, to see certain rarities like the pale-faced owl. And pale-faced owl is quite rare around the coast, haven't been spotted here for many, many years on the coastal area. For around the middle of the river Gambia, around Tendaba, or even further east to East Senegal, around the Nyoklokoba National Park on the river Gambia, pale-faced owl is possible. This is one of the greatest eagle owl at the famous Farasutu Forest, community forest we founded. And the gray eagle owl is used to be a subspecies of the spotted eagle owl, but now they are totally different species called gray eagle owl. The spotted eagle owl got yellow eyes, whilst the gray eagle owl got dark, totally dark eyes. And all these owls could be seen around the Forest Community Forest Nature Reserve and also in some areas further inland, but not as good view as you would get around the Forest Community Nature Reserve. Yeah, that's one of the biggest owl one could find in the Gambia, and among the big five of bird species in the Gambia, which is the Verox eagle owl. The Verox eagle owl is the biggest owl in the Gambia, of the world. And Verox eagle owl carry even young monkeys, or rabbits as big as young baby monkeys. And Verox eagle owl, both sexes have the pink eyelid. At the moment, scientists are working on because of the pink, why they have the pink eyelid. Some would claim is to attract other during, to attract other attract, their prey with the pink eye. Some would say they attract each other when it comes to having, contact. But still, that is not finalized. But I believe maybe to attract sexes at night, their prey at night, because when it's dark with the pink eyelids shining up, things will come to think here is something for me to have. And various eagle owl could be found around the coast and sometimes further inland.
Okie dokie. Let's take another little break for questions before we move on to one of these paradise fly catchers. I think I have that. Yeah, I do. The paradise white-eye, I mean.
Yeah.
Paradise. Yeah. So before we move on the exclamatory paradise white-eye, we'll see if we got any questions out there on owls. And just briefly, I can remember 3 pretty easy owls in the Gambia: Varro's eagle owl, pearl spotted owl, and you got to help me, man. What is the name of the owl species in the mangrove swamp? Is that the African wood owl? What?
Pels fishing owl. Pels fishing owl.
Oh, Pell's fish, okay.
Yeah.
I still remember another other one. I think there's like 4 owls we get pretty easy on the tour during the day, and then
that's the Pels fishing owl. That's one we find into the mangroves.
Okay. And then besides that, we do some nice little you probably a couple nights of nocturnal stuff during the tour. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about owls? Egyptian plover, which is a spectacular bird. You have to travel days and days to get it in Ghana. You get it about 3-4 hours from the Banjul, but about an hour from Janjanbureh. And we usually get it on the what do you call that? The North Shore area?
The north bank of the river.
The north bank of the river is where the Egyptian plover is. And on one of our tours, we got very lucky and found it at Tinda Aba. But you've never missed Egyptian plover on any of your tours, right? Maybe never is an exaggeration.
No.
Right.
We've never missed any.
He works until he finds it. And sometimes it takes an hour to find, but sometimes you just drive up and they're literally walking across the road. And there you go. Any other? Oh, wait. So one question is, are most owls diurnal or is there some night birding? And there's a couple, and to answer that, there are a couple nights of birding, but there are, and it's really just pearl spotted that's sort of diurnal-ish. But the other birds are just perched up during the day. We've got good spots to find them during the day. So there you go. Good question out there. I'm trying not to mention clients' names, even though the person who asked that question is a person I know pretty darn well. and I know he's anxious to get a birding tour on. Anyway, with any other questions, folks, and you can unmute and ask Way as well. I'm going to mute. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yaya, the floor is yours again, my friend.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, just a minute. Yeah, that's the exclamatory paradise rider, which you could, this is why people come just after the rain, November, December, up to January, whereby sometimes you can be lucky around February to see this, stolen birds in their breeding plumage. This is in breeding plumage late in the dry season, which is around May, June, July, they'll be out of their breeding plumage. Exclamatory paradise white-eye cannot be seen around the coast, but you can see it further inland. And you have a similar species called the Sahelian exclamatory paradise white-eye, which is more into North Senegal towards Mauritania around the Djoug National Park. We have quite a few number of butcher birds, which is the shrike family, including the helmet shrike, yellow-bill shrike, woodchuck shrike, sublime shrike, yeah, you name them, blue shrike, quite a good number of shrike, and this is one of them. And they pick, and we all know, as you could see, the shrike is sitting on a spiky branch. What they normally do is then get the insect and then they just put them through the spiky bead on the to kill the insects. So you can see it's sitting here on the spiky branch. And normally when they go and get the insects, they put them through the spiky bead. And coming down to swallows, we are home to quite a good number of swallows, including white-tailed swallow, this one is, and you have red-chested swallow, pied-winged swallow, fantasy swallow, musk swallow, rufous-chested swallow, including biggest swallow, which is the musk swallow. And the swallows can be found around the coast by the rivers or lakes, and even further inland as well to see some musk swallow and rufous-chested swallow and red-chested swallows as well. We were talking earlier with shrikes or the butcher bird. Shrikes or butcher bird, are one of the ones you can see in the Gambia, and this is the white helmet shrike. You could see them on the coastal area and further inland. This is, and the white helmet strikes, does not go alone. They go in a group, and if you could whistle them, they're really active and going mad. And because as you can see, I was playing their whistle call and whistling them, and then they're just trying to listen to what I'm calling them. Some are putting their ears, laying their head. Yeah, wild birding with us, it's not only birds you expect to see. You could also see some of the lizards, and this is one of them, agama lizard, and we do have monitor lizard, Nile monitor lizards as well. Some of the famous species people comes to see too. Here is African black crown cranes. The African black crown cranes could be seen during a tour with us throughout the Gambia and in Senegal. As I said, not only bird species you may see when you are tour with PIB in Gambia and Senegal. These are chimps at the chimpanzee at the Gambia River National Park, and during visit with the PIB, you could also see certain things like chimpanzee. And we are home to almost 3 to 4 different monkeys as well. We are home to patas monkeys, red clobus monkeys, green barbed monkey, and calatrux monkeys in the Gambia, including Guinea baboons. This is another chimp on the Gambia. And this is the red clover, western red clobus monkeys as well, which you expect to see on a tour with PIP. The green barbed monkey going wild here. They're very common around the coast, and in some of the areas, they even go into lodges or hotels to mix some of the drinks. I know it's not a good thing to do, but they get drunk at times. But these are some of the species in the Sahelian areas to see. This is the black scoop robin, Rufous scoop robin, Sina pendula, and little gray woodpecker can be seen in the Sahelian area around Jude National Park towards Mauritania, including Pupolat, Arabian boosted, and some of the rare Sahelian rarities. Egyptian vultures also could be seen during a tour with us in the Gambia. These are one of the most rare ones why a lot of people, go further, North Senegal to Jude National Park towards Mauritania, including Golden Niger and Cricket Warbler. And the cricket warbler is some of the things we normally go for around the Jude area, further north Senegal towards Mauritania. This is the national bird of the Gambia, called the spur-winged goose. The spur-winged goose could be found around the coastal areas of the Gambia and further inland and even further north Senegal as well. These are some of the highlights. That's why I asked some of my guests when they are coming to come with pencils and pens, souvenir for the children. These are school children because some of these students go and find in the bushes to sell to able to buy their school material to pay for their school fees. So sometimes that's why I ask clients coming to if they could bring some souvenirs for the children, school children, as we meet them during tours on in the Gambia and Senegal. Some of the rarities too to see on some of the farmlands are the tamic corsas, and we are home to tamic corsas and bronze wing corsas and cream-colored corsas can all be seen during a tour with the PIB. That's the bronze wing corsa or violet tip corsa. Could be also seen, during a tour with us. That's one of the stripes, with the insects going to put it through a spiky bush to kill it before it eats it, called the black crown chakra. Some of the rarities on why we visited the mangroves areas, we go on a dugout canoe into these mangroves areas for a boat trip to see some of the rare mangrove species like the African fairy blue flycatcher or African blue flycatcher. One of my favorite species here called the green turaco. We have the green turaco and the violet turaco, and you could see at the bottom of the wing here, it just got red as they are flying, they got red on the wings, when they are flying. These are some of the late evenings or early morning species to see in some of the, behind the lodges or behind camps, in the evenings or early mornings. That's the stone partridge. Some of the gallery forests we normally visit places like Abuko Nature Reserve or Farasuku Forest. This is a western blue-bill weaver. Western blue-bill weaver species seen around the gallery forest, especially at Abuko Nature Reserve or Farasuku Forest. And this is a female western blue weaver. And some of the species to see as well during a tour in the inland, you can see four-banded sand goose as well, and that's a male four-banded sand goose. That's a female chestnut-bellied sand goose for the inland around the further north Senegal towards Mauritania could be seen around there, but the four-banded can be seen around the Gambia, middle of the river Gambia, and further inland of the Gambia. But the chestnut-bellied are rare in Gambia, but can be seen further north Senegal. These are one of the highlights in the Gambia mangrove swamps as well, the white-backed night heron. The whiteback natteron can be seen only around the in the Gambia River on the mangrove swamps. Lizard buzzard, to be seen during our tour around the coastal area and further inland with the black vertical line on the tour. The black shoulder kite as well during a tour with us to be seen. Some of the raptors to be seen, we have quite good number of raptors in Gambia. During a tour, you can see nearly more than 30 different raptors, including the Tony eagle, Walbach's eagle, African Buffalo eagle, Marshall eagle, African goshawk, etc. And that's African goshawk as well. So these are some of raptors you could also see on a tour with us. So Gambia is rich with some mammals, some rabbits and squirrels. So there are a lot of things to see. And this is an osprey, as you can see, got a tag on it called AK8. And ospreys are visiting Gambia regularly, flying all the way from European countries. And this one was tagged in one of the European countries. And they fly for the winter into the Gambia and Senegal. And plenty of fish for them. As you may know, Gambia is very famous for its fishing. So it's plenty of fish in Gambia, so they won't be shorted with what to eat. This is some of the raptors still, to be seen during a tour with us, brown snake eagle, and could be seen further inland, middle of the Gambia and going further inland. Bodwin snake eagle is a subspecies of the Soto eagle, but the Soto eagle is well marked underneath. And while the Bodwin snake eagle, you can see the obvious three-line markings at the edge of the primaries towards the secondaries. Some of the vultures to be seen as well in Gambia. We are home to quite a number of vultures, including the palm-nut vulture, the white-back vulture, the Rupert's griffon, and white-headed vulture, Eurasian Rupert's griffon as well. Vultures, and these are a group of vultures just on a carcass here, including white-back vultures. And the one of the famous, mangrove species as well is the African finfoot. African finfoot on a tour with us is, also possible to see African finfoot on our river trips throughout during our river trips in the Gambia. And some of the dry woodlands or the farmlands, these are some of the species to be seen. We are home to quite a good number of bustard, including Arabian bustard, white-bellied bustard, Savills bustard, and black-bellied bustard could all be seen during a tour with us. This is our female black-bellied bustard here. These are some of the things. Hippo is also some of the big games, we have on the river Gambia. So these are also possible to see while on a tour with us. And some of the dry, farmlands, species called the speckled-fronted weaver. Senegal parrot, I won't leave it behind. This is one of the most amazing parrots around. We are home to Senegal brown neck parrot. These are the two we have around this part of the Africa. We don't have the African grey, but we do have the Senegal parrot and the brown neck parrot, and of course the rose-winged parakeet. Senegal kukal are some of the highlights to be seen in hotel gardens while you are in the Gambia. Because in the Gambia, you will never be sorted with what to watch, either in your bedroom or in your hotel balcony or in your garden of your hotels or lodges. This is one of the highlights of the Salum Delta. You can see some all around the North Senegal, around the Salum Delta. It's a breeding colony of them there as well, called the swallow-tail kite. Some of the skulking species as well, the sulfur-breasted bushshrike, also could be seen on a tour with us. And the other similar species is the gray-headed bushshrike. And this can also be seen on a tour with us with PIB. These are the North Senegal species. The blue-naped mousebird also could be seen further North Senegal. Some of the features you can find even in your hotel garden. So just on the path as you walk in on the tracks, on the cycle track on the coastal Gambia, that's the red-billed firefinch male. And that's the female red-billed firefinch. And that's the lavender waxbill. So we are home to different waxbill firefinches, including the African silverbill, as well as zebra waxbill. And that's the zebra waxbill, male and females, also could be seen further north Senegal. Yeah, we have like the sunbirds. We are home to almost 9 different sunbirds, including the green-headed sunbird, beautiful sunbird, variable sunbird, olive-bellied, and you name them. Majority, I think they are hummingbirds, but very similar to hummingbirds. But in this part of the world, these ones are called sunbird. That's a
Hey,
scarlet
hey,
sunbird as well.
y- you, you, my friend, have covered a lot. We got about 9 minutes left. I just want to do a little time assessment here. So if anybody's got any questions to ask, kind of rev them up. In case you didn't follow it, we started with some pretty big family groups and some of the larger stars of the show. The last 10, 15 minutes, we've been covering a lot of the target species that you get in the Gambia. And one of these days, we'll tie both geography to birding sites to birds found, though there's a lot of these birds are found throughout the country. Typical tour, Yaya, we get what? I know you hate to stick to a number, but we get like 350 to 400 species, 350 to 380, pretty easy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he hates it
absolutely. And also
when I
just
give him right on.
I put a little bit. Gambia is just amazing, because you go to South America, the whole South America, you have like 4 kingfishers, and just Gambia, a size of 11,300 square kilometer, you have almost 8 to 9 different kingfishers, which is quite amazing. You could
Yeah.
see what the river and the woodland of the Gambia provide for birding.
Yeah, and we got another good question here. Kind of, what's the typical day like? Um, Unlike all of our tours, we like to start early in the morning, mostly because the birding is best then. Um, I think almost universally the hotels support an early breakfast. And then we get out for a morning of bird watching. The hot part of the day, most days we travel, but some days we rest. But typically, we travel during the hot part of the day, and then we bird in the late afternoon. Um, I like to get out of the field between 5 and 6 o'clock, have supper. If there's any nocturnal birds being heard, kind of bird around the hotel grounds. Dejuge, you stay right in the middle of the national park. Janjambura, pretty easy to do nocturnal stuff there, even though you're staying right in the community. So it's only a couple nocturnal nights, but they are full days of bird watching. Usually get up, 5:30, have breakfast, get going out for bird watching. And again, we use the hot part of the day to travel between sites, or some days we can take a rest. But it's basically like all of our tours: morning bird watching, late afternoon bird watching are the focus, because that's when the birds are most active. Did I answer that question, person? Sorry, I can't answer you.
Yeah, and also can I come into that?
Sure.
Gambia, the weather never changes like you have in Europe. We have a sunlight from 7 o'clock to 7:30. You have sunlight, and sunset goes from 7:30 in the evening. So that is never changes. Sunrise from 7 o'clock to 7:30, that's sunrise. And the sunset by 7 o'clock, by 7:30, the sunset. And that's never changes. At the middle of the day, it can be really, hot. But what we normally do, this is why we go out by 7 or 7:30, go out. But at the heat of the day, we take a siesta for our lunch as well, to have our lunch during this middle of the day. and early afternoon, let's say by 2:30 or 3 o'clock, we start our afternoon, bathing as well. So this is how we do it. At the middle of the day, we always take a siesta for a break to have our lunch as well as it is the hottest time of the day. That is depending if we are based in this lodge. But if the day it is on changing accommodation, like traveling distance to distance, we will do have picnic lunches under a nice shady tree while still enjoying any raptors flying over. Thank you.
Great. Hey, we got some nice target birds left. How many slides do you have left, buddy?
How many?
Yeah.
Just quite a few more left,
Oh, just a few more left. I'm gonna get off the thing. I'm gonna let you do the thing. I'm gonna be back on for the wrap up in about 3 minutes. I gotta take a brief break for the bathroom. All right, I'm gonna take a break. Go ahead, Yaya. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, these are some of the things you might see as a squirrel. We are home to African Gambian ground squirrel and the African sun squirrel. And of course, we have the Gambian rat, which is one of the biggest rats in Gambia. And not only the rat, but you have mongooses, like mass mongooses and different other mongooses to be seen as well. Jackals, you could see jackals on our tour. Yeah, we've been going through, but I've never seen any woodpeckers. Woodpeckers are one of them as well, and this is one of them rare woodpeckers. This is the golden-tailed woodpecker, and we are home to quite a good number of woodpecker, including the gray-headed woodpecker, fine-spotted woodpecker, buff-spotted woodpecker, cardinal woodpecker. They are all woodpeckers. Brown-back woodpecker. It's quite a good number of woodpeckers you may see on a tour in the Gambia with us. And this is the full-voice whistling duck, which you can see further north Senegal. And in National Park, they got lakes, with ducks and gulls and tans, thousands of them. And of course, there are other lakes, full of, flamingos, including greater flamingos, lesser flamingos. This is some of the coastal accommodation you could see, while on birding, on the coastal accommodation. This is right, most of the accommodation on the coast of the Gambia are right on the Atlantic Ocean, or right on the beach of the Atlantic Ocean. So all the lodges, all the hotels on the coast are up to standard, 4 or 5-star hotels and good food. And in Gambia, don't worry, you'll never be sorted with what to eat. It's always plenty of good food and plenty of fish, as we are home to fishing most of the most good fish in Africa. That's some of the pigeons you might see, called the Bruce's green pigeon or yellow-bellied fruit pigeon. Pigeons we have the green fruit pigeon, yellow-bellied fruit pigeon, and of course, different other doves, including the collared dove, the red-eyed dove, the mourning dove, the Venetian dove, the wood dove, quite a good number of doves as well. That's a speckled pigeon as well. Speckled pigeon, you could find them throughout the Gambia. And this one was on a dead palm tree, and they're making nests inside the hollow there. These are some of the tans you may see too while on the, this is the royal tan. We are home to Caspian tan, royal tan, lesser crested, and some other gulls as well, like kelp gull, Odwin's gull, skuas, like Pamoran skuas or Jaeger, we call it, Arctic Jaegers, and you name them. That's a Caspian tan, or we commonly known as the flying carrot. Caspian tan is among the biggest tan in the Gambia. You could see these around the coastal area and further inland. And we are, as I said, we are home to different tans, including the Caspian, Royal, Lesser Crested, Sandwich tan, you name them. That's the slender bill gull. We have some gulls like the Odwin's gull, lesser blackback gull, slender bill gull, gull bill tans. These are some of our doves called red-eyed. Red-eyed doves, mourning dove, and pernicious dove can be very, very similar. They all got the black neck on their back and their neck. And this one got deep red eyes, which you can hardly see, called the red-eyed dove. You have sacred ibis. We also home to ibis, including the sacred ibis, the head of the ibis, and woolly neckstock, yellow billstock. We home to all this pink-backed pelican and white-backed pelican to be all seen on a tour with us. These are all species you can see in the Gambia and Senegal tour. Some of the cysticolas. We are home to cysticolas, warblers, including very red-winged warbler, singing cysticola, whistling cysticola, plaintive cysticolas could be all seen in the Gambia. Thank you all for your time and patience for being with us here today with Partnership International Body. We welcome you all to on our tour. And we have scheduled tours for November and January, February, and in March as well. So you are welcome. And if you have any question, you are welcome to ask. Thank you. I pass you over, Charles. Charles, I can't hear you.
Me. Okay, sorry about that. We got another really good question. Are there any true endemics in the Gambia or Senegal, or both
What's
combined?
that?
Are there any? I mean, most of these birds are widespread throughout West Africa, right? So there's a lot of West African endemic species, maybe counting Senegal. The question is how many endemic species? There's no real endemic species of the country, but there's a lot of West African specialties and endemic species, probably in I would say
rarities like wood owl in Gambia is a very big plus because it's not a species you can just see like that in any part of the world. But in Gambia, those are species which are easy to see. White-bellied bustards, pale-facing owl, very owl, gray eagle owl, and even mass owl at early as November.
Yeah. But if we just focus on West African species, there's probably I would say 120 sort of West African specialties that really they're difficult to get in other parts of Africa. And there's also a lot of good birds right next to the Sahara as well. So, I think typical trip, somebody's going to add, if you've never been to Africa before, I think you're going to add 350 life birds. If you've been to East Africa before, you're probably going to still get 120, 150 life birds. So though there's not a lot of endemic species just to the country, there's a lot of West African endemics and specialities. To answer that question, if that didn't answer the question, let me know. He liked the answer. Nice, thanks. I love those kind of things. Any other good questions before we wrap up here? It looks like we got a little flow here. I think we got them all covered. Any other questions out there, folks?
And also just elaborate on the endemic species, like, in North Senegal towards Mauritania, things like, Sina pendulanti, little gray woodpecker, cricket warblers,
true.
golden nightjar, those are quite rare.
That's true. And rare is the wrong word. The word we should be using is like a target or specialty bird. Somebody unmuted. Any other questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, if I can make a comment, Charles. What?
Sure.
Yeah, it's Martin Parker, and I don't know if Yaya remembers me, but
I remember you.
I do remember
you. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, Yaya. I have to admit, I have spent 4 trips with you in the Gambia, and your abilities as a leader and the birding experience has just been wonderful, and just a truly great guide to be with. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Martin. I
You're welcome.
saw you out there, and
Thank you,
and
Martin
they're
Parker.
Okay.
That's our the Canadian clients.
true. Any other good questions, and then we'll just wrap up. We got one more. Oh, are there any hard hikes? Gosh, I don't think there's any hard hikes. I mean, we typically walk. I mean, most people don't realize, but we walk 2 or 3 miles a day. But because a lot of it is in the river, the Gambia River plain, there are really no hard hikes. There may be some hikes that are a couple hours long. Yeah. Is that about right?
Yes, but that's
Mostly
no
just an
big
hour
hikes,
away
no,
from the
no.
car. Yeah,
But the
so
walk is quite paced, because we walk slowly, but sometimes, like you said, we can walk 2 to 3 miles a day. But all the working areas, tracks are all done because our association, especially in Gambia, all the working tracks, for bodies look after. So walking is we do quite a nice walks, and all the paths are very safe to walk. But if you come in this part of the world, bring a walking boots or trainers. It's good ideal. And also just after the rain, you could bring long trousers in case, because we're going into the bushy stuff, avoid bushy grasses cutting your legs. So with long trousers just after the rain is fine. And in some area, when we're traveling from distance to distance, you can put on your shorts. And of course, with the hats and sun lotion and mosquito repellents always needed. Thank you.
great. So yeah, so there aren't a lot of hard hikes. And very typically when you get out of the car, you'll bird from 15 minutes to 75 minutes. There's probably, I don't know, 2 to 4 hikes in the like 2 hour plus range, and sort of in these like areas. So one question about disease. You do need to be super well vaccinated for birding in West Africa, including malaria prophylaxis, all of our tours, COVID, which does remind me, if you haven't signed up for a COVID Uber booster, the new boosters are out today. I'm getting my first booster. I encourage everybody to continue to get COVID vaccine boosters, and never forget other diseases like malaria, yellow fever, et cetera, et cetera. But if you go to a travel clinic for any trip to West Africa, they will make sure you're up to date on darn near everything. To answer that question.
And it's another question, Charles. Where do most folks from the US fly into to get to the Gambia?
Oh, yeah. A really good important point I think you just raised. There used to be a South African Airways flight directly to Dakar. They canceled it, but there is a flight on Delta from New York to Dakar. And I think it's a perfect situation. Like, you get to, your international airport on the East Coast of the United States, in this case, JFK in New York. You get on the plane about 8 o'clock. You spend the night flying over the Atlantic Ocean, and you wake up at 7 p.m. in the Gambia or in Senegal. Yaya meets you. You go right to bird watching. The first lodge, Care Saloom's about a couple hours away by driving. But you bird along the way and you get right to bird watching. So it's a super nice tour, and the fact that it's a very easy flight. Thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah. Any other comments or questions before we wrap it up? And we are running a little late here.
Going back to malaria, but normally all these tours start after the rainy season. So malaria is not a big threat at the drier season, but just for safety, we advise people to take their malaria tablets and also bring mosquito repellents. And most of all the houses in the lodges and the hotels have mosquito nets. So you'll be fine with malaria once you are precaution.
But
and
please,
it's big spread at that time of the year.
But please be prepared with a prophylaxis tablet, is recommended by the US CDC, an agency that's I really think is like beating itself up over COVID. Truly, we've ended on good advice from public health agencies from around the world on all of our tours. And we are pretty thankful for what they do to help us support safe bird watching. Any other questions or comments, folks? Hearing none, I thank you all for your time. And Yaya, I thank you for your time.
Thank you,
And
too.
we're in great shape here. Thank you all. I think we're going to wrap it up.